Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and this evening we'll have a look at the latest from the live radar. Then we'll have a look at the longer term outlook, including the GFS, the GEM, the ECMWF, the GFS Ensembles, and we'll finally finish up having a look at the UK Met Office shorter range model as well. It is looking like we're going to be seeing a lot of high pressure building in by the end of this working week, which means things are going to be settling down, especially in the south and the east as it is building up in off the near continent. But the one thing we've got to keep an eye on is what air mass sits under this high pressure, whether it's a warmer air mass in from the south, or there at times we do get a bit of a northerly or easterly wind where the air mass will be a little bit chillier. So I'll have a look at the models for that later. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you do like and subscribe, and do remember to follow on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So if you have a look at the live radar, you can see at the moment, with a typical low pressure theme, we've got a lot of showers around. Now, you can see there are some of these showers that are quite heavy, and I wouldn't be surprised there's a little bit of thunder activity within them. There's quite a heavy band of showers moving through Yorkshire and sort of Manchester at the moment, heading north eastwards. And we have again more lines of showers heading down the Midlands into central southern England as well, and even heavier showers out towards Ireland, Northern Ireland, and parts of western Scotland as well, and of course southern Scotland and northern England as well. Eastern areas have been favoured today. There has been some sunshine around, has been fairly pleasant, but you can see the showers that are rattling in off the Irish Sea and the Atlantic are now spreading further and further eastwards and should be starting to impact these areas very, very soon. Now, they should slowly degrade overnight as the sun does start to set, because these are, of course, convective showers, so they should start to ease, but again, it is highly likely at some point over the next few hours, many areas do see some heavier bursts of rain. So we do have a look at the GFS. We'll have a look through the long-term outlook. You can see why we've got this showery theme at the moment, with low pressure centred to the north of Scotland, westerly winds, quite an unsettled and cool air mass. You can see it's not remarkably cold, but it is much cooler than we've had recently, and it does mean that have a bit more instability, of course, coming in off the Atlantic. This low pressure continues, and we could see some more heavy rain through Tuesday and Wednesday, as we do have a low pressure system sort of sparking up throughout sort of the lunchtime tomorrow into the evening, and this could provide heavier localized rain. Now, beyond that, you can see ex-Hurricane Sam, which is now out in the North Atlantic, and as we said yesterday, we get warm air advection, where these ex-hurricanes pump warmer air further northwards, and that encourages high pressure to grow. And what we see here is high pressure build up from the south, initially sort of extending in off the Scandinavian high that we have built already. And what this does for a time is build up south or southeasterly winds. Now, these are reasonably pleasant for later this week. We could be seeing temperatures getting into the high teens, maybe even 20-21 degrees perhaps in a few spots. However, if we do watch it, eventually the main Scandinavian high does start to degrade. We see a bit of retrogression heading out with the centre of this high back out into the Atlantic. And what this does allow is the air mass to change. And what we do see is the wind come in from a north or northwesterly sort of position, and then eventually do see a cold front sweep through. We see some much cooler Arctic air push through. Now, it's not remarkably cold by any means, but it would potentially introduce maybe overnight frosts, a bit of fog around, and perhaps some cooler conditions as well. And if we do run through it, continuing that, we do pull in a brisk easterly wind at one point, with some quite chilly air coming in from Scandinavia. And as we head right to the end of the run, we do see that high pressure starting to topple, and it does bring that warmer air back in. But the high pressure does remain in and around the UK, which is reasonably encouraging for any winter lovers out there. As of course, high pressure over towards the UK, to the north of the UK, is going to encourage colder weather with northern blocking as we head into the winter months. So we need to keep an eye out for this. So we do have a look at the GM, see how that does compare. You can see at the moment again, a lot of low pressure around with the cooler air mass. You can see Hurricane Sam entering to the North Atlantic. This low pressure eventually sort of gets pushed away, bring up a brief southerly wind with some warmer air pushing in, and then we see that high pressure over Scandinavia sort of die away, and we get a reinforcement from Azores, but of course that's going to be further west, and what that does is bring in a northerly wind. Now again, as we saw with the GFS, it's not a direct northerly, it's not a really cold blast, but it's going to be bringing in a chillier air mass, and you can see for the far east, we do see some quite chilly air come down by day 10. For the west, still fairly pleasant, and we could be seeing some big contrasts. Where in the east, we could be seeing overnight frosts, whereas further westwards, we could see more cloud lingering around under a warmer, more moist air mass, and we can see temperatures staying around 10 degrees overnight. So we'll have to see what really happens with this high pressure, but the important thing is it is looking generally dry. The exact situation of the high pressure, whether it's going to be a bit of a gloomy high, which we had towards the end of August, a sunnier high, which we would preferably like, and of course that would bring frost risk with it as well. So I don't know, we're going to have to see exactly what air mass does take over. At this stage, it does look like there's going to be transitions at times. So even though the similar sort of high pressure is going to be in control, it does look like the exact sort of weather at the surface will shift at times, but it doesn't look like there'll be a lot of precipitation around at all. So if we do have a look at the ECMWF, see how that does compare. Generally, again, low pressure pushing through for the next day or two, and then we see that high pressure building. Still could be some weather fronts in the west initially as this low pressure tries to push in, but they should fizzle away as they come up against the high. Again, pull in a brief sort of south or southeasterly wind, and then the high pressure from the Azores builds in. And by day 10, it's actually built in and sort of topples, which does mean potentially for northern Scotland we do start to pull in some more cooler and unsettled conditions in from the northwest. However, generally, most of the UK, including the eastern half, we do topple under slightly warmer air, and you can see the cooler air is out towards Scandinavia and Eastern Europe and sort of gets mixed up. So it is a little bit better in terms of reducing the frost risk, but as ever with a toppled high, it could have a lot of cloud trapped under it, and of course it could start to bring in unsettled weather in from the northwest, which is something we'll have to keep an eye on. So finally, for the long-term outlook, if we do have a look at the GFS Ensembles, you can see tomorrow we've got a massive deluge coming with heavy rain in the south. Temperatures below average at this stage, but then they do rocket up to around 10 degrees at 850 HPA by around 7th, 8th, so end of this working week, and they maintain that. They do slowly start to drop off as we do start to pull in some chillier air in from the northeast, but at this stage it is quite uncertain. You see a lot of ensemble members staying around 10 degrees or even going a little bit higher, but at the same time, including the operational run, we've got a lot going much, much cooler, if not quite cold, getting below 0 degrees at 850 HPA, even getting down towards potentially -5, which would definitely bring in the risk of frosty conditions and generally quite cold days where temperatures are in the single digits. You can see though, very, very minimal precipitation, which is good. In the long term, there is of course some precipitation spikes right towards the end of the run, towards around the 20th of October, but again, that is quite far away and is subject to change, and of course we're going to have uncertainty at that sort of level. If we also have a look at the dew point, which does give us a good indication of sort of the air mass, you can see generally it does turn warmer towards 7th and 8th of October, and then we're generally trending lower. Now the air mass doesn't get below freezing for the dew point until around the 17th, 18th, 19th of October. So it's unlikely we're going to be seeing any massive frosts unless we do see that dew point drop below freezing. But it is still getting quite chilly, around 2 to 4 degrees on a lot of these ensemble runs. And again, it all depends on wind direction as well. So we'll have to keep an eye on what happens with that. If we do have a look at the mean sea level pressure, you can see generally low pressure over the next 2 days. Quite a deep area of low pressure, or localized deep low pressure moves through tomorrow, with the centre of low moving through the Midlands, and then we see pressure really rise over a good 2 or 3 days from sort of the 5th, 6th of October to the 8th, rising by around 30 millibars, which is quite a lot. And then we see generally high pressure stay in control, a bit more uncertainty right towards the end of the run, but of course that is expected with an ensemble run. If we do have a look at Glasgow to give us an idea of what we could be seeing further northwards, you can see generally, again, low pressure at this stage, trending high pressure. Takes a little bit more time for that high pressure to really take control, maybe another day or two, then further southwards, but that is expected of course with the high building up from the southeast, and then again stays reasonably high the pressure for the foreseeable future, and then again towards the longer term, some ensembles dropping off. If we do have a look at the 850 HPA temperature and precipitation, you can see we do have around average temperatures, but as those temperatures skyrockets at the end of this working week, we could see a lot of rain in the northwest. As I said, when that low pressure initially pushes in with the warm air, with that high pressure, we could see standing weather fronts. And that is why we could be seeing a lot of heavy rain potentially in the north and west, with a lot of rain falling over quite a long period of time in a few spots where the weather fronts do stagnate. But beyond that, it does look generally dry for a good 4, 5, 6 days before more precipitation does pick up right towards the end of the run, which is, of course, expected with an ensemble run. And as ever with low pressure that looks with high pressure, that looks like it could be toppling out into Europe, that is when weather fronts and low pressure could be pushing in off the Atlantic or the North Atlantic. So that is kind of expected in the longer term, but it generally does look pretty decent compared to what we were seeing maybe about a week ago, where we didn't really have any respite from the precipitation in the ensemble runs. So if we do have a look at the UKMO office run, you can see heavy rain is still pushing in, and over the course of this evening, that heavy rain that's going to be affecting many areas tomorrow, it's going to start to push in, and around early hours of tomorrow, really significant rain, and then through tomorrow we see the back edge of that low pressure system push through, and more persistent rain around lunchtime into early afternoon pushes through many central areas and northeastern areas. Well, finally it slowly sort of fades away, and then by the end of this week we see those stagnant weather fronts push in, potentially across the northwest, and you can see these weather fronts really hardly move over a good 2 or 3 days, and that's pretty typical of high pressure building in from the southeast. You can see no showers in the southeast as that high pressure pushes up against the weather front, and we could see a scenario where the weather front even starts to go backwards and fizzling out, of course. So if we do have a look at the max temperatures, see what we could be seeing over the next sort of 5 days or so. See, today, temperatures were pretty chilly, around 15, 16 degrees, but where we do see sunshine in the east, it did feel pretty decent. But elsewhere under the showers, pretty chilly indeed. Tomorrow doesn't look like it's going to be a particularly great day, only around 10, 11, 12 degrees under where we see a lot of that rain, maybe 14, 15 further west where we do escape the rain. Overnight temperatures are going to be around sort of 9, 10 degrees under cloud, but getting into the mid-single digits quite widely where we do see cloud dissipating. And then by Wednesday afternoon, temperatures could be up in the south, maybe 15, 16 degrees. You can see that warmer air pushing up from the southwest. And then by Thursday, could be seeing temperatures around 20, maybe 21 degrees. Pretty pleasant, potentially in central England into East Anglia, even pushing up into parts of the northeast as well. By Friday, once again, a pretty decent day, around 19, 20 degrees, but as ever, where we've got that weather front for the north and westwards, it's going to be dropping those temperatures down by a good 5 or 6 degrees with highs in the mid-teens, whereas 20, 21 degrees further southwards. And then again, overnight temperatures not falling too low either. So it's looking pretty decent towards the end of this week. Beyond that, still does look like high pressure will be in control, but the exact air mass is still up for debate at this stage. But for the meantime, we do have some heavy rain coming in from the south over the next day, so overnight tonight into tomorrow, and then we also have some very heavy rain potentially coming in for parts of Scotland, northwest England and Ireland, and maybe parts of Wales and the far southwest of England later this working week. But it should fizzle away as we head towards the weekend, and we do start to see high pressure take control for all. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.